Case 1. Miranda Barber, November 11th, 2013. Sunbury, Pennsylvania. Troy LaFerrara scrolled through Craigslist looking for companionship. The 42-year-old engineer had no idea he was messaging a self-proclaimed serial killer who called herself Super Miranda. The petite 19-year-old offered delightful conversation for a price. He agreed to meet. Miranda Barber picked him up at a mall that evening. Her husband, Elite, was hiding under a blanket in the back seat. She drove to a quiet area and gave the signal. Elite wrapped a cable cord around LaFerrara's neck from behind. Miranda stabbed him approximately 20 times as he gasped for air. They dumped his body in an alley, then went to Walmart for cleaning supplies. Their next stop? A strip club to celebrate their anniversary. The brutality didn't end there. Miranda claimed she'd been killing since age 13, when a satanic cult leader she called Forrest forced her to execute a man in an Alaskan alley. She told investigators she'd murdered between 22 and 100 people across multiple states, targeting those she deemed bad people. Police traced LaFerrara's final phone call to Miranda's cell. Both were arrested within weeks. In a chilling jailhouse interview, Miranda said if she were ever released, she would kill again without hesitation. She was sentenced to life in prison. As of February 2026, Miranda Barber remains incarcerated in Pennsylvania, serving her sentence at age 32. She will never be eligible for parole. Case 2. Gertrude Baniszewski, October 26, 1965, Indianapolis, Indiana. 16-year-old Sylvia Likens stumbled through the basement of 3850 East New York Street, her body failing. For 3 months, she'd endured unimaginable horrors at the hands of her caretaker, Gertrude Baniszewski. What started as a boarding arrangement became the single worst case of abuse in Indiana's history. July 1965. Carnival workers Lester and Betty Likens left their daughters Sylvia and Jenny with Gertrude for $20 a week. The 37-year-old mother of 7 was chronically ill, skeletal from poor nutrition, surviving on crackers in a house covered in filth. When a payment arrived late, everything changed. Gertrude beat Sylvia with a fraternity paddle, calling her a prostitute. She told her children and neighborhood kids that Sylvia was theirs to use as a plaything. 15-year-old Coy Hubbard practiced judo throws on her, slamming her against walls. Other children burned her with cigarettes, forced her to eat her own vomit. Yusin watched as Gertrude carved words into her stomach with a heated needle. "I'm a prostitute and proud of it." Sylvia was kept in the basement, tied to a bed, denied bathroom access. She was forced into a scalding bath to cleanse her sins. On October 26th, her brain swelled from the prolonged damage. She collapsed and died. Gertrude called police, claiming Sylvia had run away with boys and returned ill. Jenny Likens slipped a note to an officer. "Get me out of here, and I'll tell you everything." Gertrude and 5 others were arrested immediately. She was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life. Despite massive public protest and 40,000 signatures opposing her release, she was paroled in 1985 after 20 years. She died of lung cancer in Iowa on June 16, 1990, at age 60. Case 3. Celeste Beard Johnson, October 2nd, 1999, in Austin, Texas. Stephen Beard woke to the sound of his bedroom door opening. The 75-year-old millionaire television executive had seconds to process what was happening before a shotgun blast tore through his abdomen at close range. He screamed into his phone, "My guts just jumped out of my stomach. They blew out." His wife, Celeste, emerged from a separate wing with her adopted daughters, claiming they'd heard nothing. The house had been ransacked to look like a burglary. But this was no random break-in. Celeste had met Stephen in 1993 while waitressing at the Austin Country Club. He was a widower, blissfully happy with his young bride after they married in 1995. He adopted her 2 daughters and showered the family with wealth. But Celeste had a secret. In March 1999, while admitted to a mental health facility, she met Tracy Tarleton. It's the bookstore manager. They began an intense relationship. Celeste told Tarleton that Stephen was abusive, that the only way they could be together was if he died. For months she planned. On October 1st, she showed Tarleton exactly where Stephen slept, left the gate open, and ensured doors were unlocked. At 3 a.m., Tarleton entered and fired. Stephen survived the initial attack but died on January 21st, 2000, after months of hospitalization. During that time, Celeste spent $570,000 of his money. When Tarleton read in the newspaper that Celeste had remarried, she realized she'd been used. She went to police. Celeste's own daughters testified against her, claiming she'd tried to hire a hitman to eliminate Tarleton before trial. In 2003, Celeste was convicted of capital murder and sentenced to life. Tracy Tarleton served 20 years and was released in 2011. As of February 2026, Celeste Beard Johnson remains incarcerated at the Christina Melton Crane Unit in Texas. She is 63 years old and will be eligible for parole on April 1st, 2042, when she is 79. Case 4. Latonia Bellamy, April 4th, 2010, Jersey City, New Jersey. Nia Huck and Michael Mucciocchi pulled up to their Randolph Avenue home, their car loaded with gifts from their engagement party. They were building a life together. The 25-year-old and her 27-year-old fiancé had established careers and dreams of a future. They had minutes to live. 19-year-old Latonia Bellamy stood in the shadows with her cousin Shaquan and accomplice Darmelia Lawrence. They'd been passing weapons back and forth as they walked through the neighborhood. Shaquan handed Latonia a handgun. She told the group she'd always wanted to know what it felt like to fire a weapon. When they spotted the couple unloading their vehicle, Shaquan said, "It's them, get 'em." The three approached. Michael and Nia were ordered to the ground. Shaquan fired a shotgun into Michael's head. Then he turned to Latonia and said, "You want to shoot a gun? Shoot it." Witnesses heard a boom, then pop, pop, pop. Latonia fired multiple rounds from the handgun, striking Nia in the head. The couple died on the pavement. The attackers tried to steal the car but found a steering wheel lock blocking them. They fled on foot. Latonia accepted $40 as her share. 5 days later, she went to police only after learning they were seeking her. During interrogation, she gave conflicting accounts. First claiming she fired into the air, Annie then admitting she shot near the victims. The evidence told a different story. In June 2012, a jury convicted her of murder, felony murder, robbery, carjacking, and weapons offenses. On February 8, 2013, Judge Paul DePascal sentenced her to life plus 30 years. She must serve a minimum of 93 years. As of February 2026, Latonia Bellamy remains incarcerated in New Jersey at age 35. Her earliest possible parole date is in the year 2106. Case 5. Dion Baugh, August 7, 1996. Roswell, Georgia. Lance Herndon was living the American dream. The 41-year-old CEO of Access Incorporated had built a computer consulting empire, working with Coca-Cola and Fulton County's 911 system. Presidents Bush and Clinton had recognized his achievements. He was wealthy, charismatic, and newly single after his third divorce. Or he had no idea his ex-girlfriend was planning to end his life. Dion Baugh, a 27-year-old Jamaican native and executive secretary, had been dating Herndon for months. When he tried to end the relationship, she created scenes outside his home. On July 11th, she was arrested for the criminal trespassing. Herndon bailed her out and tried to have the charges dropped. She had a court date scheduled for August 8th, and Herndon promised to attend. On the evening of August 7th, Dion claimed Herndon visited her home briefly to lend her a laptop. Prosecutors believe she arrived at his Roswell mansion around midnight. They had relations in his waterbed before she retrieved a large crescent wrench. She struck him once in the back of the head, disorienting him. Then she beat him repeatedly across the front and right side of his skull, each crushing it completely. She showered, unplugged all 3 of his alarm clocks and his bedside phone, and stole jewelry and a credit card. She posed his body with arms folded across his chest to make it look like he died peacefully. The next morning, his mother discovered him. After employees noted he hadn't started his usual 4 a.m. work routine. When police arrived at Dion's home that afternoon, she collapsed hysterically, but shed no actual tears. Her DNA was found under his fingernails. After 3 trials spanning years, she pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter in September 2004 to avoid a 3rd mistrial. She was sentenced to 10 years in prison and 10 years probation. She was released in July 2011 after serving her full sentence. As of February 2026, she has completed her probation period. Case 6. Nicole Baucus. June 29th, 2012. The Woodlands, Texas. Arnis Buchanan saw the headlights coming directly at him on Interstate 45. It was 3 a.m., and a Ford F-150 pickup truck was barreling north in the southbound lanes at 65 miles per hour. He swerved, barely avoiding the collision. Seconds later, the truck slammed head-on into a Chevy Aveo carrying 3 young people. 2 died instantly. 21-year-old Nicole Baucus had spent the evening at On the Rock Sports Bar. Surveillance footage showed her stumbling as she consumed 21 alcoholic drinks over 4.5 hours, servers delivering trays of shooters in violation of state law. At 2 a.m., she got into her truck and drove away. For the next hour, she was unaccounted for. In her final phone call with a friend, she said she was on the side of the road vomiting. Shortly after, and she entered the North Freeway via an exit ramp, going the wrong way. TransStar highway cameras captured her taillights, traveling against traffic. Nicole Adams, 19, was driving the Aveo. Travis Saunders, 18, sat in the back seat. David Porras, 21, was in the passenger seat. The impact killed Nicole and Travis instantly. David's facial bones were shattered when he hit the dashboard. He would undergo 13 reconstructive surgeries. When officers arrived, Baucus was laughing randomly as if it were a joke. She claimed a man had been driving, though investigators found her bloody shoe and sock on the driver's side floorboard. Her blood alcohol content was measured at 0.265, more than 3 times the legal limit. Tests also revealed Valium and marijuana in her system. On August 1st, 2013, on the 4th day of trial, Baucus changed her plea to guilty, where she was sentenced to 38 years in prison. Because the vehicle was classified as a deadly weapon, she must serve at least 19 years before parole eligibility. As of February 2026, Nicole Baucus remains incarcerated in Texas at age 35. Case 7. Melissa Bates, May 15, 2011. St. Marie's, Idaho. Robert Marek opened his home to his niece when she needed help. The 43-year-old mill worker was described as a sweet man who loved his family. Melissa Bates, 26, had nowhere else to go after struggles with mental illness and recent completion of a life skills program. He never imagined she'd kill him in his own backyard. The argument started over property. When Marek told Melissa to mind her own business, she replied, "I can shoot you right between the eyes." He likely dismissed it as empty words. That night, during a pouring rainstorm, she shot him and beat him with a metal rod. Then came the fire. Despite the rain, Melissa built a roaring backyard blaze in a makeshift pit ringed with rocks and cinder blocks. She used tires, wood, and hay to incinerate her uncle's body. 2 men stopped by that evening and found Melissa acting strangely. She claimed plumbing problems and mentioned the water running through the house looked blood red. When they asked where Marek was, she said he was out back someplace. She even allowed them to walk near the pump house, mere feet from the burning corpse. Marek failed to show up for his swing shift at Stimson Mill the next day. On May 17th, investigators discovered human remains, mostly bone, in the fire pit. They tracked Melissa to a boat launch in Bayview on Lake Pandore. She was preparing to cross the lake when deputies arrested her. During a videotaped police interview, she confessed to the shooting and burning. She admitted throwing the murder weapon into the St. Joe River. Investigators found her wedding dress, graduation certificate, and Social Security documents discarded in a trash can at the scene. On April 4th, 2012, Melissa entered an Alford plea to second-degree murder, acknowledging sufficient evidence for conviction without admitting guilt. Judge Fred Gibler sentenced her to an indeterminate life sentence with a fixed minimum of 30 years, citing mental health evaluations that deemed her a significant risk to the community. As of February 2026, Melissa Bates remains incarcerated in Idaho at age 42. She will be eligible for parole in 2042 at age 58. I'm genuinely curious how many countries we can hit on this video. Drop your location. Let's map this community. Case 8. Monique Berkeley, December 18th, 2005. Raleigh, North Carolina. Paul Berkeley stepped out of the movie theater with his wife, Monique. They just watched King Kong together, a date night to reconnect after his recent return from military deployment in the Middle East. The 46-year-old naval reservist had no idea his 26-year-old wife had spent the entire film planning his execution. While Paul was overseas, Monique had begun an affair with 18-year-old Andrew Canty. She moved her teenage lover into their Clayton home while her husband served his country. When Paul returned for Christmas, he told his daughter Becky he planned to file for divorce. Monique needed him dead before that happened. During the movie, Monique left her seat to use the restroom. She called Andrew and instructed him to meet them at Millbrook Exchange Park. She told Paul they should go there for a romantic interlude involving wine, candy, and intimacy. He agreed. As the couple walked along a park pathway in the pre-dawn hours, Andrew and his driver, Latwin Johnson, arrived. Andrew walked past the couple and opened fire. Paul was shot in the head. Monique was shot in the shoulder, a deviation from their original plan for her to only be beaten to stage a robbery. Andrew stole Paul's wallet to complete the scene. Monique called 911. On the recording, Paul can be heard gasping for air in the background. Police arrested all three the next day while Monique was still hospitalized with her gunshot wound. On December 23rd, she confessed to plotting the murder to collect a $400,000 life insurance policy. She later tried to recant. The autopsy revealed not just the fatal gunshot wound, but also a 1-inch deep stab wound near Paul's right ear that penetrated his brain and skull. On September 25, 2007, Monique pleaded guilty to first-degree murder to avoid the death penalty. She was sentenced to life without parole. As of February 2026, Monique Berkeley remains incarcerated in North Carolina at age 47. She will never be released. Case 9. Cindy Laubeck, August 30th, 2010, Polk County, Oregon. David and Marilyn Jondal had built Abundant Life Farm from nothing. The 61-year-old former software engineer and his 58-year-old wife raised poultry, pigs, cattle, and sheep on 210 acres of peaceful land. And their son, Andrew, was dating someone they deeply disapproved of, 46-year-old Cindy Lou Beck, who claimed to receive messages from tree spirits and animal spirits. Beck had lost custody of her children months earlier. She believed killing Andrew's parents and inheriting the farm would prove to the state she could provide a proper home. She manipulated the 21-year-old through what prosecutors called spiritual channeling, convincing him the elimination was necessary. On Saturday, August 28th, they fixed their plan. Monday evening, Andrew set out on his scooter toward the family farm. He called Beck after dark, saying he was waiting for his parents to fall asleep. She told him he could come home or wait it out and complete the task. They had to be dealt with at some point. Andrew entered the garage. When David opened the door to greet his son, and Andrew bashed him in the head with a metal pipe and stabbed him with a scythe. Marilyn heard the commotion and rushed to help. Andrew beat her to death with the pipe. He stole credit cards, cash, and jewelry, seeking roughly $500 for back rent. Between 1 a.m. and 2 a.m., Beck and Andrew visited neighbor David Powell's house, asking for cigarettes. Beck had her hood up. Andrew was shaking uncontrollably. Hours later, a water delivery man discovered both bodies. David was near the open garage door. Marilyn was in the kitchen. Both were arrested at their Salem apartment that day. Andrew pleaded guilty to aggravated murder and robbery on July 29, 2011. Beck pleaded no contest to conspiracy to commit murder on August 31st. On September 19th, she was sentenced to 20 years. While in prison, she faced additional indictments for first-degree assault and sodomy involving a minor. As of February 2026, Cindy Lou Beck remains incarcerated in Oregon at age 62. Case 10. Asuncion Avila Villa, August 23, 2009, Hamilton, Ohio. The infant had been alive for just 35 days. Israel Santos weighed 9 pounds at death, only 1 ounce more than his birth weight. He'd been systematically starved by his own mother, 26-year-old Asuncion Avila, who neighbors described as very abusive toward her 3-year-old daughter. On August 24th, Avila called 911 to report her son missing. She told the dispatcher one of her ex-boyfriends had picked up one of her sons to take him to the store. The story made no sense. Detective Paul Davis noted she was unusually calm for a mother with a missing child. When he confronted her, Nishi forced out one tear and quit. Detectives worked through the night, eventually bringing trash from her Schuler Avenue residence to the police station. Inside a plastic bag, they found the infant's body wearing only a diaper. Pink flowers had been placed inside the bag in what prosecutors called a gang-style burial. The coroner discovered a crushed skull with extensive brain injury, a broken arm, numerous other broken bones, abrasions, and bruising. Avila failed a polygraph test. During interrogation, she admitted grabbing the infant by the face and shaking him while he sat in a bouncy seat. Prosecutors believed she committed the act to avoid a scheduled August 27th appointment with Butler County Job and Family Services, where she would have been required to produce all her children. The infant's father was revealed to be a 14-year-old boy Avila had engaged with in late 2008. On April 12, 2011, she pleaded guilty to aggravated murder, gross abuse of a corpse, tampering with evidence, and unlawful conduct with a minor to avoid the death penalty. During sentencing, she told her family she hoped her children would understand and not judge her when they grew up. She was sentenced to life without parole. As of February 2026, Asuncion Avila remains incarcerated in Ohio at age 43. She will never be released. Case 11, Shajia Ayobi, December 18, 2011, Sacramento, California. Ghulam Ayobi reclined in the passenger seat as his wife Shajia drove their Kia Sedona minivan eastbound on Interstate 80. They'd just left a dinner party in North Natimus. It's the 53-year-old former Afghan soldier and cultural sensitivity consultant had no idea someone was hiding in the back seat behind him. His 45-year-old wife knew exactly who was there. At 12:04 a.m., police received a report of a man shot near Norwood Avenue. Shajia had steered the van off the interstate. She called a friend first, then 911. When officers arrived, she was sobbing and banging on the hood of the van. She claimed 2 carjackers had hidden in the vehicle and shot her husband during a struggle. Ghulam had been shot 3 times in the head at close range while his head was back in rest. He died at the scene. Shajia's story immediately raised suspicions. She claimed she'd been married to Ghulam since 1993 in an arranged marriage, enduring years of physical and psychological abuse. She alleged he would drag her by the hair and pour toilet water over her head. Yet the evidence at the scene didn't match her carjacking story. During a second interview on January 19, 2012, she changed her account. This time, she claimed a CIA operative she'd refused to help had hidden in the van and committed the murder because Ghulam was a cultural consultant. Detectives didn't believe that either. On January 20th, she was arrested. She eventually admitted to contracting the killing, but claimed it was under duress from PTSD and fear of her husband. Prosecutors argued she planned the murder to escape her marriage without the cultural stigma of a second divorce and to collect a $285,000 life insurance policy. She'd allegedly hired 20-year-old classmate Jake Clark from Kaplan College to be the gunman. After nearly 4 days of deliberation, a jury convicted her of first-degree murder on June 15, 2013. She was sentenced to 26 years to life. During sentencing, she apologized to her 4 children. As of February 2026, Shazia Ayobi remains incarcerated in California at age 60. She will be eligible for parole in 2039 at age 73. Case 12, Deborah Baker, June 12, 1990, Texas. Jerry Sternadell lay strapped to his hospital bed with restraints on his hands and feet, tubes in every opening. The 49-year-old millionaire entrepreneur had been energetic and healthy weeks earlier. Now he was dying, and he knew exactly who was responsible. He begged anyone who would listen, "Please help me, cut me loose. I don't want to die. Those 2 women are killing me." Sternadell had discovered that his wife, Lou Ann, and his bookkeeper, Deborah Baker, each had stolen thousands of dollars from him. When he confronted Baker about the missing money, everything changed. Shortly after eating lunch with both women, he became deathly ill. He was hospitalized 3 separate times. During his final stay, he repeatedly told doctors and attendants that his wife and bookkeeper were poisoning him. He specifically stated they'd stolen $35,000 and were trying to eliminate him. Nobody believed him. On June 12th, he died from what was later determined to be arsenic poisoning. The death certificate stated he was given arsenic over a period of time until lethal amounts finally killed him. An anonymous caller tipped police about a $350,000 life insurance policy the widow stood to gain. Investigators discovered a bottle of arsenic poison in a storage shed rented by Deborah Baker. The follow-up autopsy revealed extremely high lethal levels of arsenic in Sternadell's system. Baker was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. On June 30th, 1993, she was convicted but received an unusually lenient sentence, 10 years probation and a $10,000 fine. The jury later admitted they felt the widow was the primary culprit, which influenced their sentencing recommendation. Lou Ann never attended a single day of the trial and was never charged. Baker violated probation in 1999 by committing theft by check. In 2003, her probation was revoked. She was sentenced to 9 years and 360 days in prison. She was repeatedly denied parole due to strenuous objections from the victim's family. She served her full sentence and was released on June 20th, 2013. The widow, Lou Ann Sternadell, was never prosecuted and lived freely with the inheritance. Case 13, Lolita Barthel, August 18th, 1995, Tampa, Florida. Richard Menendez was a 64-year-old traveling floral supply salesman. When 3 teenagers forced their way into his Hillsborough County home, he begged for his life. 17-year-old Lolita Barthel, just weeks away from her 18th birthday, pointed a handgun at him and said, "I'm gonna smoke you." Menendez went for the gun. During the struggle, Barthel pulled the trigger. He collapsed, bleeding. Barthel and her 2 friends fled the scene. On September 14th, 1995, the second day of Lolita's senior year at Tampa Bay Tech, she was arrested in the principal's office. On December 19th, 1996, she was convicted of robbery and murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. At age 19, Lolita entered Jefferson Correctional Institution near Tallahassee. She She described her mind during the trial as a mix of fog and fear. She didn't remember the judge telling her she'd spend the rest of her life behind bars. That reality only set in when she observed older inmates who had been incarcerated since they were teenagers, now elderly women with canes walking the prison yard. Christmas 1999 brought a rare visit from her mother, Loretha. Before her arrest, Lolita had a tradition of buying her mother a watch every Christmas. In prison, she found pictures of watches in magazines, clipped them out, and mailed them as her gift. During the visit, Lolita gave her mother an unopened pack of cigarettes and an empty box wrapped to look like a present, so they could take a holiday photo together. She coped by blocking out her reality to maintain her sanity. One of Lolita's accomplices was given a deal in exchange for testimony. The accomplice provided the account of the forced entry and the specific threat Barthel made. Barthel denied making the statement and claimed her memory of events was clouded. As of February 2026, Lolita Barthel remains incarcerated in Florida at age 48. She has now served 30 years of her life sentence and will never be eligible for parole. Case 14, Marie Besnard. October 25, 1947. Loudun, France. Léon Bénard told his mistress, the local postmistress Louise Pantou, that he believed he was being poisoned. He mentioned that his wife, Marie, had served him soup in a bowl that already contained a liquid. On October 25th, he died. The doctor listed the cause as uremia. The town whispered, "Un autre pour Marie," another one for Marie. Marie Besnard, born in 1896, had been burying people for decades. Her first husband, cousin Auguste Antigny, died in 1927 of alleged tuberculosis. She married Léon Besnard in 1929. Between 1938 and 1947, 12 people connected to Marie died under suspicious circumstances, each leaving her money or property. The pattern was unmistakable. In 1940, Marie's father died of a reported cerebral hemorrhage. Weeks later, Léon's father died after allegedly eating poisoned mushrooms. 3 months after that, Léon's mother died of pneumonia. Léon's sister committed suicide months later, leaving everything to Léon. In 1941, wealthy boarders Toussaint and Blanche Rivet both died after naming Marie their sole beneficiary. In 1945, 2 elderly cousins, Pauline and Virginie, died within a week of each other. Marie claimed both had mistaken bowls of lye for dessert and eaten it. The same mistake. A week apart. After Léon's death, Louise Pantou sent a letter to prosecutors about his fears. Marie went door to door threatening neighbors who gossiped. Someone burned down Pintou's house in response. On May 11, 1949, Léon's body was exhumed. Investigators found 19.45 milligrams of arsenic, twice the lethal dose. 11 more bodies were dug up. 12 of the 13 corpses contained significant arsenic traces. Marie was arrested on July 21, 1949, and charged with 11 counts of murder. The trials lasted over 10 years, involving conflicting scientific testimony about whether arsenic could migrate naturally from cemetery soil. Defense attorney Henry de Clouseau famously argued, "In this country of good wines and fine living, yes, one might conceive of 1 murder, 2 murders, even 3 murders. But 11 murders? Preposterous." On December 12, 1961, after 3 trials, Marie Besnard was acquitted on all counts. She lived as a free woman with her vast inherited wealth until her death on February 14, 1980, at age 83. Case 15. Christine Billis, July 22, 2009, West Charleston, Vermont. Christine Billis drove her legally blind husband, Charles, home from a medical appointment in Newport. The 45-year-old had undergone a hysterectomy weeks earlier and claimed she wasn't feeling well. As they traveled south on Route 5A, she saw a large pine tree ahead on a straightaway section of road. She later described it as the most beautiful thing she'd ever seen. She steered directly toward it. Charles, 57, wasn't wearing a seatbelt. Christine was. The car slammed into the tree at full speed with no brake marks on the pavement. Neighbors Raymond and Pamela Hellenick heard a sound like dynamite going off and saw a cloud of dust. Charles was trapped in the mangled wreckage. He sustained fatal injuries and died at the scene. Christine had only minor injuries. Police initially treated it as a tragic accident on a clear, sunny, cloudless day. Nearly 2 years later, Christine registered on the dating site OkCupid and began communicating with Kevin Leland. During their conversations, she unburdened herself. She confessed the crash was intentional. She told Leland she'd been planning it for months, looking for a way that couldn't be proven deliberate. She described her abusive marriage, claiming Charles controlled everything and wouldn't allow her to have friends or speak to her family. She said when she saw the tree coming at her, it was beautiful. She couldn't take it anymore. She didn't want to leave him with the kids. Her intention was to take them both out together, but the plan didn't work. Leland contacted police. During their first face-to-face meeting, he wore a digital recording device. Later, he wore a police wire during a phone call. When Christine said, "Yeah, it wasn't easy," referring to taking a life, Leland replied, "You are the only person I know who has killed someone." In June 2011, Christine was arrested for first-degree murder. After questioning, she called Leland and told him, "I'm busted." Due to ambiguities in the case and witness credibility concerns, the charge was reduced to manslaughter. On November 21, 2012, each Judge Howard Van Benthuizen sentenced her to 7 to 15 years in prison with credit for time served. The scarred pine tree remained at the scene for years as a visual reminder. Case 16. Laurencia Bembenek, May 28, 1981. Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Christine Schultz woke to the sound of footsteps in her home at 2:15 a.m. The 30-year-old ex-wife of Milwaukee police officer Alfred Schultz had seconds before a masked figure in a green army jacket entered her bedroom. Her 11-year-old son, Sean, later described seeing a reddish ponytail hanging from the intruder's head. Christine was bound with clothesline, gagged, and blindfolded with a blue bandana. A single shot from a .38 caliber revolver was fired point blank into her back, piercing her heart. She died face down on the floor. 3 months earlier, her ex-husband Fred had married Lori Bembenek, a strikingly beautiful former Milwaukee police officer who'd been fired during her probationary period. Lori had filed sex discrimination complaints against the department. She claimed she was being framed. Witnesses testified Lori had spoken at a dinner party about having Christine blown away. Police found human hairs on the victim matching hairs from Lori's hairbrush. A brownish-red wig was discovered in the apartment's plumbing. Judy Zess claimed Lori owned a green jogging suit and blue bandana matching those used in the crime. The weapon was Fred's off-duty service revolver. No sign of break-in was found, and entry appeared to be made with a key Fred had previously copied without permission. On June 24, 1981, Lori was arrested. In March 1982, she was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life. On July 15, 1990, Lori escaped from Taycheedah Correctional Institution with help from her fiancé. She became a fugitive for 3 months in Thunder Bay, Ontario, before being captured. The case became a national sensation. "Run, Bambi, run" became a rallying cry for supporters who believed she was wrongfully convicted. In November 1992, after legal battles in Canada, she was released from prison after pleading no contest to second-degree murder. Her sentence was commuted to time served. In 2002, while filming for the Dr. Phil show, she fell or jumped from a second-story window, resulting in a leg amputation. She struggled with hepatitis C, liver and kidney failure, PTSD, and alcoholism. Lori Bembenek died on November 20th, 2010, at a hospice facility in Portland, in Oregon at age 52. Her attorney sought a posthumous pardon, asserting wrongful conviction. Case 17, Ashley Benton, June 6, 2006. Houston, Texas. Irvin Chu Park erupted in violence mid-afternoon. Between 20 and 30 people, members of rival groups Crazy Crew and MS-13, clashed with weapons including tire irons, machetes, and baseball bats. 16-year-old Ashley Benton, a white girl from a middle-class background, held a double-bladed knife with a 5.5-inch blade. 15-year-old Gabriel Granillo, known as Pelon, swung a baseball bat during the melee. According to witness John Villatoro, after the encounter, Granillo stated, "I think she stabbed me." The blade had traveled at an upward angle below his sternum and punctured his heart. He was declared gone at the park. MS-13 members claimed Granillo was turning to run away when stabbed. Benton acknowledged the incident to authorities, but claimed self-defense, stating Granillo had swung the bat at her. The case shocked Houstonians because of Benton's background and the location, a neighborhood park where residents walked dogs and played soccer. On June 14th, Granillo's remains were transported via TACA Airlines cargo plane to El Salvador for burial at his father's request. His grandmother and family members attended the service in his homeland. Benton was charged with murder on August 8, 2006. Prosecutors initially sought to try her as an adult. Her trial began in June 2007. Defense attorneys used a baseball bat and replica knife in a courtroom dramatization to demonstrate self-defense. On June 29, 2007, after 18 hours of deliberation, the jury remained deadlocked. 5 jurors favored murder, 4 favored manslaughter, and 3 voted for acquittal. Judge Devin Anderson declared a mistrial. In December 2007, Benton pleaded guilty to aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. She received 5 years deferred adjudication probation, 300 hours of community service, and was required to obtain a high school diploma and pay $4,000 for Granillo's memorial service. On September 16, 2009, Judge Kevin Fine lifted the remainder of her probation early after she successfully completed all terms. Upon completion, the criminal charge was dismissed. Her lawyer stated she would assume a new name and move for personal safety due to threats. Case 18, Maria Barbella, April 26, 1895. New York City. Maria Barbella stood in a saloon on East 13th Street watching Domenico Cataldo play cards with his friends, and the 22-year-old Italian seamstress had one final plea. She begged him to marry her and save her honor. He laughed and replied, "Only a pig can marry you." Maria produced a straight razor hidden in her sleeve and slashed his neck in one swift motion. Cataldo staggered out the door toward Avenue A, clutching his throat, spraying blood everywhere. He collapsed in the gutter and bled to death. Maria was arrested shortly after, stating, "I killed him because he ruined me." Months earlier, Cataldo had lured Maria to a boarding house, allegedly drugged her drink, and assaulted her. To prevent her from leaving, he showed her a savings book with $400, promising marriage. She lived with him for weeks, while he repeatedly delayed the wedding. When he told her he was returning to Italy, she was devastated. She was ruined in the eyes of her traditional Southern Italian community. Cataldo's secret came out during the investigation. He was already married with a wife and children in Italy. He'd seduced at least 5 other girls using the same method. A fellow shoemaker testified to his pattern of predatory behavior. Maria's first trial in July 1895 lasted 4 days. Judge John W. Goff showed clear prejudice. The jury found her guilty of first-degree murder in less than an hour. She was sentenced to die in the electric chair, becoming the first female inmate ever held at Sing Sing, and the first woman sentenced to the newly invented execution method. Countess Cora Slocum funded her appeal. During the second trial in November 1896, defense attorneys argued the unwritten law and a medical defense of epilepsy. They claimed the insult triggered a seizure, rendering her unconscious during the act. Maria described a red flash and overwhelming heat in her head at the moment she struck. On December 10th, 1896, she was found not guilty of murder and manslaughter, convicted only of illegal possession of a firearm. After her acquittal, she disappeared from public view to escape sensationalized attention. Maria Barbella died on March 24, 1950, at age 81. Case 19. Elvira Barney. May 31, 1932, London, England. The wealthy socialite known as one of London's most beautiful women stood in the bedroom of her William Mews home, a revolver in her hand. Her lover, 24-year-old Michael Scott Stephen, lay at the bottom of the stairs with a bullet in his chest. It was 4:30 a.m., and neighbors had heard the entire confrontation. Elvira Barney, daughter of a stockbroker to King George V, was a prominent member of the Bright Young Things, London's elite party set. She'd married American singer John Sterling Barney in 1928 after allegedly holding him prisoner until he agreed. They separated within months after violent quarrels. Michael Scott Stephen, a bisexual former dress designer, had been living on Elvira's money at 21 William Mews. Their relationship was marked by repeated violent arguments. In mid-May, a witness saw Elvira lean out of her window and shout at Stephen, "Laugh, baby, laugh for the last time," before firing a revolver at him. She missed. On the night of May 30th, they attended the Café de Paris and the Blue Angel for drinks. They returned home at 4:30 a.m. Neighbors heard Elvira scream, "Get out, get out, I will shoot you." A gunshot echoed, and then came sobbing, "Chicken, chicken, come back to me, I will do anything you want me to." Dr. Thomas Durant arrived at 4:50 a.m. to find Elvira hysterical, repeating, "He wanted to see you to tell you it was only an accident." Stephen was found at the bottom of the stairs, shot at close range. police discovered 2 empty chambers in the .32 Smith & Wesson revolver and a second bullet hole in the bedroom wall. The house, nicknamed the Love Hut, was furnished with a cocktail bar. Police found prohibited publications and implements of a questionable nature. Elvira was arrested on June 3rd after witnesses reported the earlier shooting attempt. At trial in July, defense attorney Sir Patrick Hastings argued accidental discharge during a struggle after Elvira threatened her own life. He demonstrated the light pull required to fire the weapon. On July 5th, she was found not guilty of murder and manslaughter, convicted only of illegal firearm possession. She allegedly celebrated her acquittal at the Café de Paris, shouting, "I am the one who shot her lover, so take a good look at me." Her family disowned her. She moved to France and continued a life of drinking and substances. On December 25, 1936, she was found deceased in a Paris hotel room after a night of heavy drinking. She was 32 years old. Case 20. Liesl Aumann. November 12, 1997. Denver, Colorado. 21-year-old Liesl Aumann sat handcuffed in the back of police cruiser a 6979, her hands secured behind her back. She'd just been arrested following a high-speed chase that started in Buffalo Creek and ended at the Monaco Parkway Apartments. Officer Bruce Vanderjagt arrived at the scene and walked toward the alcove where her companion Matthias Janig was hiding. Gunshots erupted. Vanderjagt, 47, was struck in the right side of his head, chest, arms, and legs. He never regained consciousness. He was the first Denver officer killed in the line of duty in 9 years. Janig then used the officer's own service weapon to take his own life. The autopsy revealed enough methamphetamine in Janig's system to end an average person. The day had started with Aumann trying to retrieve belongings from a rented room she'd shared with her boyfriend, Sean Cheever, at the Hudson Hotel Lodge in Buffalo Creek. She suspected him of infidelity and had moved out. She was accompanied by high school friend Demetrius Harper and 3 men she just met, including Janig, where they broke the padlock on Cheever's room and took items. Authorities spotted them leaving. A chase ensued. During the pursuit, while Janig drove, Aumann held the steering wheel so he could lean out the window and fire an assault rifle at pursuing officers. When they abandoned the car at Monaco Parkway, Aumann surrendered at approximately 2:45 p.m. She was searched, handcuffed, and placed in the cruiser. 5 minutes later, while she sat restrained, Vanderjagt was shot and killed by Janig. Sergeant Calvin Hemphill approached the police car and told Aumann, "This is murder 1, and you're going down." While in custody, she was uncooperative, used profanity, and allegedly spit in an officer's face. She did not inform them Janig was still hiding nearby. In July 1998, she was convicted of first-degree felony murder, under the theory that the incident occurred during immediate flight from a burglary she orchestrated. She was sentenced to life without parole at age 21. Hunter S. Thompson became a vocal supporter, bringing national attention to the case. The Colorado Supreme Court overturned her conviction in 2005, ruling the jury wasn't properly instructed that second-degree burglary requires knowingly entering another's property. On July 11, 2005, to avoid retrial, Aumann pleaded guilty to second-degree burglary and accessory to first-degree murder. She was sentenced to 20 years with credit for time served and moved to a community corrections halfway house. She was released after serving approximately 8 years. Case 21. Marie Dean Arrington, April 22, 1968. Lake County, Florida. Vivian June Ritter, a 37-year-old secretary for the Lake County Public Defender, drove her 1965 white Chevrolet to work that morning. A taxi driver dropped off Marie Dean Arrington half a block from the same office. An insurance agent who knew Ritter personally saw both women entering Ritter's vehicle together mid-morning. At noon, Ritter's car was seen passing through an orange grove on a narrow sand road. A grove supervisor observed the vehicle from no more than a short distance. Within an hour, workers heard gunshots. In Leesburg, it was discovered Ritter was missing from her office. Evidence at the scene suggested an abduction. That afternoon, witnesses saw Arrington driving the white Chevrolet alone. Arrington's mother picked her up several miles from Leesburg, observing Arrington leave the white Chevrolet behind. On April 27th, Ritter's badly decomposed body was discovered several miles from town. She'd been shot multiple times with a .22 caliber revolver, and her body had been run over by an automobile several times. The motive was revenge. Marie Dean Arrington's 2 children had been unsuccessfully defended by the public defender's office on felony charges. Arrington blamed Ritter, the attorney's secretary, for the outcome. At the time of Ritter's abduction, Arrington was out of prison on an appeal bond for a 1964 conviction. She'd previously ended her own husband's life in Volusia County and received a 20-year sentence for manslaughter. Arrington led police to an envelope hidden under a bathtub in her residence containing Ritter's personal effects and an unsigned letter. The letter stated, in effect, that Ritter would be eliminated unless 3 unspecified persons were released from custody. Arrington's landlady testified she'd previously given Arrington a .22 caliber revolver that was never returned. Ballistics confirmed it was the weapon used. On December 6, 1968, Arrington was sentenced to end her life in the electric chair. On March 1, 1969, wearing only pajamas and a house coat, she escaped from Florida Correctional Institution by cutting through a heavy window screen. She became the second woman ever named to the FBI's 10 Most Wanted Fugitives list. She lived as a fugitive for over 2 years before being apprehended in New Orleans in late 1971. In March 1972, she was sentenced to an additional 10 years for the prison escape. On August 28, 1972, her sentence was commuted to life in prison, following Supreme Court rulings that struck down existing capital punishment laws as unconstitutional. As of the most recent available records, Marie Dean Arrington remains incarcerated in Florida at Lowell Correctional Institution. The victims in these stories deserve to be remembered: Sylvia Likens, Stephen Beard, Gabriel Granillo, Officer Bruce Vanderjagt, Vivian Ritter, and all the others whose names should never be forgotten. Share this video. Subscribe to Crime Lens for more deep dives into the cases that change communities forever. Stay aware, stay vigilant. The people you trust the most can sometimes be the most dangerous. This has been Crime Lens. We'll see you in the next one.